hard for me to give an actual title for this lecture. You see here I call it Dinosaur Decline. I've labeled the actual file as Dino Parasites. I could call it an alternative extinction event for the dinosaurs. Well, here we go. The next lecture, the last one we're going to use for this course, is to talk about the asteroid that hit planet Earth that killed most of our dinosaurs, and most of you know that. And that's true, but dinosaurs were on their way out for millions of years before this happened. And so you could say that they went out with a whimper and not a bang. And there are actually paleontologists that feel that these events and these sort of hypotheses that we're going to talk about in just a second are probably more important for the end, the final extinction for the dinosaurs, than the actual asteroid. Interesting. So when we do this, though, we frame it a lot of times as dinosaurs versus insects. Now you might say, well, insects, this puny little weevil type thing here, how could that possibly affect these giant dinosaur beasts? Well, we'll get to that. So how do we study this area? What we need here are fossils held in amber. And what amber is, it's just pine tree sap that has hardened. And think about it, it's very, very sticky. And what happens is that animals, particularly small little animals, bugs, but also little lizards and snails and things, get trapped in it, they get stuck in it, they get caught in it, more sap flows over them, it hardens. The sap hardens and becomes the rock type we have, amber. And we have three prominent time periods that we can look at amber in the Cretaceous. So this is a very complicated time scale, but realize that at the very top of this is the taken end of the dinosaurs, the end of the Mesozoic era, also the end of the Cretaceous, and the very bottom is the start of the Cretaceous. And these three little lines here, L, B, and C, are places in Lebanon, Burma, and Canada where we can collect a lot of this amber and get samples of these things, including a lot of insects and other pests that probably were very problematic for dinosaurs. So what do we have there? There are all kinds of little beasts like this. These are plant hoppers. They are voracious grazers on plants, and dinosaurs would also eat these things, but they are a virus vector today. So today these plant hoppers contain viruses, and they're sort of a way to transfer disease from one host to another host. Aphids. These are also voracious grazers and vectors for viruses. So we have these things. We have these things in the same time period as the dinosaurs. Well, why is this important? This excess grazing by plant hoppers and aphids is partially responsible for the invention or the evolution of angiosperms. If you recall, gymnosperms are the plant types that dominate the Triassic and Jurassic. What are gymnosperms? Things like pines, firs, spruces, Christmas tree type things, as well as ginkgos. But the Cretaceous, we invent angiosperms. And what an angiosperm is, it's flowering plants. It's all flowering plants. Plants that have pollen. And why they did this, there was a natural selection for early reproduction by these plants before they could be eaten by those things that we mentioned before, the aphids, plant hoppers, things like that. What does this do? It creates a devastating swath across the landscape. So not only are gymnosperms being eaten by these new grazing insects, they are being outcompeted by the rise of this new plant type, the angiosperms. What is the evolutionary response? What happens with gymnosperms, pines and things like that, is that they retreat. They're no longer dominant globally. They become only present and dominant at high latitudes, so the farther north or farther south you go, or also high altitudes, the higher up you go on mountains. What would be the response of dinosaurs? to this. The response then is dinosaurs had to migrate farther and farther and farther in order to reach their crop of gymnosperms. Gymnosperms were the diet that these ornithischian or herbivorous dinosaurs evolved, they co-evolved to eat. As the gymnosperms decline and are replaced, the dinosaurs have to follow them. In the lower picture, so the upper picture and the lower picture shows this herd of ornithopods or hypsilophodonts sort of heading north, heading to colder and more miserable climates. Meanwhile, angiosperms develop new coevolutionary partners. Insects, if you think about it, what pollinates plants that most of us know about? Insects, things like that bee that's down there, but also flies and butterflies and a whole world of insects. They co-evolve with angiosperms. The insects evolve structures and flying styles and methods of communication, everything, in order to maximize their food value from these angiosperms. The angiosperms in time will evolve more nectar, more pollen, more scents to lure in their evolutionary partners. This would also be the case for the small mammals, like this sort of like tree-living primates here as well. And this has been called an evolutionary dance, but with new partners. Here's the old dance, dinosaurs plus gymnosperms. This has been evidence there's slowly replaced throughout the Cretaceous, and a new replacement by this. So not only is there this replacement by insects, there's other things going on as well. So the new hypothesis is that not only were dinosaurs declining because their food source was declining, they became susceptible to a whole race or a whole suite of diseases and parasites that we have evidence of in these amber deposits. You can read this here as well. It's very visual, very descriptive. Persistent diarrhea, insatiable thirst, bloody stools, hordes of flies and beetles. The description here is of dinosaurs that are truly suffering by a huge, huge parasite and disease load. From what? If we look elsewhere in the amber, there are mites. There are ticks. These are known disease vectors today. They presumably would be as well in the Cretaceous. Gastropods. A lot of times people just think, oh, they're harmless little snails, but they are intermediate hosts for a whole suite of parasites, both bacterial and viral, and again, worms, including things like nematodes. Now, all of these pictures I'm showing you are from amber, and these things are notorious parasites today, and they would have been for dinosaurs as well. Ascarid eggs, again, from amber, these form these stomach worms, and we've actually found these in the dinosaur poop as well as the amber deposits. What does this do? Causes extreme dysentery, intestinal blockage. You can even have airborne transmission of these things. Ascarid worms themselves will house themselves all over the body, including these very gross ascarid eyeball worms. They literally will live within the moisture of your eyeballs. I love this description here. We've got this ailing ankylosaur fell behind the herd, obviously in pain, masses of ascarid roundworms, etc., etc. You can read the whole thing here. When it finally dies, it's immediately pounced upon by all kinds of other parasites. It gives you an idea of a dinosaur fauna that's not just these big titans of an area, rulers of the world, kings of their planet, but susceptible and being taken down by things completely out of their control. The removal of their gymnosperm food source, and then this evolution of this whole just circus of parasites and disease. And even more, Mosquitoes and amber. Mosquitoes, you know, today carry all kinds of viruses and malaria, etc., as well as they're sort of part of the life cycle of nematodes. Huge problem. We have them in amber. Scorpion flies. Scorpion flies are responsible for this bacterial disease, leishmaniasis. Well, there, look. Very distinctive scorpion flies. Big problem today. Would have been a problem as well in the Cretaceous. And we even have amber fossils of their non-flagellated sort of egg-like stage here. Very bad. And so the thought here is that dinosaurs might have been done or on their way out or their last gasp before that asteroid even hit planet Earth. Again, another very descriptive set of words to lay out how the Poinars viewed this possibility of the end of the dinosaurs. Here they are. Dinosaurs. Looks like everything's okay. Big carnosaurs, big ornithopods, gymnosperm forests, but all of that might have been undone by organisms from the insect world, from the arthropod world, from worms, from snails, from bacteria, from viruses. Interesting to think about.